What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to one of my most favourite synchro style decks and of course worm based decks, and that is the turn of Swordsoul Tenyi. I've finally been able to pick up my copies of the Mula Adhara and of course the Tenyi Spirit Saruya, so I've been able to kind of update this deck. There's not a mass change with it. Basically most of what will change will be your ratios of the Tenyis and then the reliance on particular type of cards you want to utilise in the strategy. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile, we're starting off with the free tokens. So massive shout out to Ranger Trader 49. I'll put his link to the Instagram in the description below if it's still active. But that's where I got these tokens from. I always get asked where I get them, so that's where I got them. Apparently you can also pick them up on Etsy. It might be the exact same person, but just as a bit of a disclaimer, that's where they're from. So starting off with the Swordsoul cards, you do play triple Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous. I think most of the Swordsoul lineup is relatively cheap and easy and pretty staple. The one big benefit of the Swordsoul lineup is you can pretty much get everything now, as it's just been reprinted in Maze of the Masters very easily, and then it all comes down to getting access to the Tenyis, which should again also be relatively easy to pick up, as the Saruyas are like £8 a copy, and then getting into a Mula Adhara is not that expensive. It's like £1 because it's an ultra rare. Everything else from that point on has come in like multiple different rarities, so you should be able to pick them up quite easily. So Triple Ecclesia, this is your ideal card for going second. It's still good for going first, as it has the ability to tribute itself off to get you access to a Swordsoul monster, but you ideally run the risk of it and hit with an Ash Blossom doing something like that. Whereas going second, as long as your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you get to special summon it, and that's the big difference of going first. You don't get that free summon off of the back of it. You do need to rely on using it as your normal summon, which is something you don't want to be doing. Then of course you do play free Swordsoul Moyi. So this one got a reprint as a super rare, I believe, in Maze of the Masters. And the idea is this is your ideal Swordsoul starter. The one big thing about Swordsouls is they are all relatively 2-card combos, and what we mean by that is they all need to reveal another worm in the hand, or discard a worm, or banish a worm in order to get going. So they need to have a bit of a semi-setup, and that's where Moyu comes into play, because this one will let you reveal a worm in the hand, and that's why it has synergy with the Tenyis to then get the ability to spawn its token. So spawn the Moyi token, and the tokens are the cards that are the tuners, so that's how you're going to be able to make your synchro summon plays, but they do lock you into synchros while they are on the field, so as soon as you get rid of them, you're open to summon pretty much whatever you want. Then of course you do get free long one and the one tire. I'm hoping we're going to get a long one upgrade and a tire upgrade. It'd be nice to have these all in matching secrets, but even then they're still really kind of cool cards. The tire is the one you rely on less, but you can very easily play it too if you wanted to. The long one in the past was the ability to get you to a Baron de Fleur before you started even summoning loads of different cards, and that protects you from Nibiru. Now what you're doing with the Tenyi strategy is you're actually trying to play through Nibiru if it happens. Of course you can use a Chow Feng, which is what I do in the extra deck, because there is a way that you go into the Baxia, use Baxia to destroy the monster that it brings back to get you to the Hara, which is the level 1 tuner. You synchro those two together to your level 9 Chow Feng, locking your opponent out of light effects, which is obviously going to be very, very good in a Blue Eyes matchup. Then of course you do have free Emergence, because obviously Emergence gets you access to any of your Swordsoul monsters, and the one Blackout. Pretty standard on this one. Blackout is still an incredibly powerful card for this deck. Ideally what you're going to be doing though is you'll go for your Yugioh. Your Yugioh will then search you out Blackout, which would be the most defensive route, but if you're trying to be aggressive or push the field a little bit further, you go for Emergence, as Emergence will, and I'll jump ahead to it now, get you access to your arch nemesis Protoss. The best thing about this is Protoss can call Dark, so Malice matchup, goodbye. It can also slow down the Ryziel matchup with any Darks that they might be utilizing, especially if you want to go for the Mitsurugis. But then of course you can call Lights sometimes, depending on what you put on the field. The one big issue is if you call Lights, chances are you're going to be sacrificing your Yugioh to do so. So that's when you're going to be sacrificing the negate for a complete lockdown of Lights for the next turn. Then for the Tenyi lineup, we've gone with triple Ashuna. So this is the ideal Tenyi for you, because this is one that's going to allow you to banish it from the graveyard to then special summon any Tenyi monster, and that's going to get you into the access of the brand new Saruya. I say brand new, this came out in Supreme Darkness, is relatively old right now considering we get Alliance Insight next month, but this card is an absolutely insane addition alongside the Mula Adhara and of course the field spell for the Tenyi strategy. So if you control a worm monster, you get to, or a face-up non-effect monster, you get to special summon this card from the hand. The big important thing about this is there was a lot of times when I was playing Swordsouls that they might sometimes try and get rid of the token, because if they get rid of the token, I don't have a tuner on the field to make my synchro plays, and that's where Saruya can come to the savior of that one, because you can just special summon it down. There's your other tuner that you might need and synchro summon it off. But of course it is a Tenyi monster that can be utilized into other link plays as well. The benefit of something like this as well is if this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a Worm synchro monster, you get to special summon a Tenyi Link monster from your extra deck, but it can't be used as Link material, and then you lose life points equal to its Link rating times 1,000. So this is how you can spam out another Monk, which will be the lowest life point cost, but the one you also want to go for will be the Shisara, as this is an incredibly powerful monster that allows you to protect some of your monsters from being targeted, as well as just being an annoying card that your opponent can really struggle to deal with. For the other Tenyi spirits, we are playing 2 of the Adhara, 1 of the Shuda, 1 Safana, and 1 of the Mapura. Now, the Mapura actually comes into play quite a lot in the Raziel matchup, as this one is when your opponent targets a face-up non-effect monster you control, you get a quick effect to banish this card from the graveyard, or hand, technically, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So it's another way to protect some of your cards from being targeted, also protect them and put it a bit of a threat. And this is one of the cards that not a lot of people have ever played in the Tenpai strategy, so a lot of people don't even know about it, and they're like, oh, they sent a fire one, that's a bit weird. Sometimes they'll read it, sometimes they won't, and then they'll go, oh, I didn't realise it had that effect, and you're like, yeah, cool, I've just protected my monk so that all my Tenyis are now still live. For the rest of the Tenyi cards, we are playing 1 Vessel, 1 Heavenly Dragon Cycle, and the 1 Tenyifinity. So this card is still really, really good for this particular strategy. So when it's activated, you get to add a Vessel for the Dragon Cycles or Heavenly Dragon Cycles from the deck to the hand, so you get to activate either or of these. And then on top of that as well, you contribute a Worm monster to target a monster on the field and destroy it, so it gives you a nice aggressive outcome. You can only use each effect of Tenyifinity once per turn. And then once per turn during your end phase, you can send this card to the graveyard, and if you do, place a Flawless Perfection. We're not going to be doing that, but you can play Flawless Perfection if you want to. And I've really just realized what this art always reminded me of, and I'll try and put the picture up on screen, is this reminds me of the Upper Moon, is it Upper Moon 4? I want to say it's Upper Moon 4 from Demon Slayer. I'll put a picture right here on the screen so you can see the comparisons between the two, but it reminds me of the Upper Moon 4 when it kind of gets to its final stage. So pretty funny on that one. And then for the hand traps, we have got 3 Astralsman Joyous Fring, double Ghost Ogre. This could be anything. The Ghost Ogre is the flex option for something along the lines. Same with the Bestials. These are the flex options for stuff like Effect Veiler, which sometimes can come up in the strategy because that level 1 tuner can be very effective to utilize some synchro plays. But because we're not relying on Vashuda as much, it kind of makes the synchro plays a little bit more restricted. So I've gone with like hand traps of choice with Magnemute, Druid Swarm, and Ghost Ogres. But these could be Drolls, Effect Veilers, whatever. And then triple Infinite Impermanence, followed up by 2 triple Tactic Talons and 1 Call by the Grave. You kind of have the ability to play through 1 or 2 hand traps, but you want to make sure that if you do get hand traps, you can kind of retaliate with either protecting with a Call by the Grave or activate a triple Tactics talent to look at your opponent's hand and take away a card that might stop you comboing. Yes, of course, you can take the risk and draw cards, depending on what your hand currently looks like, but I feel if you're taking the draw option, you're risking another hand trap being activated on you, but then you're also risking the ability that you don't draw what you need, and it kind of foretells that your hand isn't that great. So I'd probably be focusing on looking at my opponent's hand 99% of the time, and then the 1% of the time will be going second to steal the monster, and that might be able to allow you to either synchro climb higher or make them destroy their own monster so that it doesn't stay on the field. So that's it for the entire main deck. I've tried to keep it as a 40 card list. You can bump the list up if you want to. It's a 41 card list currently. There are spaces where you can increase or decrease if you need to. It really comes down to the player preference. Moving on to the extra deck, so for the main synchro on this one is the Mula Adhara. Again, absolutely amazing card for the deck. It is a great new addition thanks to Supreme Darkness. So if this card is synchro summoned, you get to, and 2 or more Worm monsters are in the graveyard, which by the time you synchro summon it will be the case, or banishment, you get to add a field spell from the deck to the hand. You can only use each effect once per turn, and then when a non-effect monster face up on the field, this card gains the following effects. It can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, your opponent cannot target it with card effects, and it can make a second attack during each battle phase. So it becomes an aggressor, but the fact of the matter is that it lets you search out any field spell, then gives you access to your side deck, and I know that originally when this first came out, a lot of people were going for Summon Breakers. You can also go for stuff like Necro Valley, but keeping in mind that will then stop you getting to your Yugioh's negate. But then if you're going to go for Protoss play, you'd summon down your Protoss, then you'd activate Protoss, call in light, destroying your own Yugioh, and then you don't care, and then you basically be backing your board up with no light monsters for your opponent, a Protoss, and then a field spell of Necro Valley, meaning nothing can be moved from the graveyards. Could be very, very damaging depending on the matchup you're facing. And then for the other level 8s, we do play the 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. I've kind of done these in such a weird level order, so apologies for that one. But then, of course, you do have your 2 Yugioh and your 2 Baxias, followed up by the 1 Yazi, all pretty standard on this lineup. For the level 10s, I just really wanted to show off the Muladhara. Level 9, sorry, got the one Chaofeng. You can actually cut Chaofeng out. This can be a Typhon. This can be any kind of other synchro that fits within it. So the other card that I don't play is the Dragite. And the reason I don't play the Dragite is I do like to play the one Ice Jade Gimir. I think this is a really kind of cool option. Not a lot of people respect it. Not a lot of people know about it outside of the Swordsoul strategies. But this is one of them really cool matchups that can do very good against Malice. But also if you end up getting a Kashtira matchup, this can also help you protect and be very awkward for them to deal with. Of course, you got the long one and your Tenyi. I think both of these are just great aggressive options. This kind of puts a bit of a clock on your opponent, because if you're resolving this after going off of a long one, you would have ultimately ended up burning your opponent for 3,600 damage. And then if you're going second, of course, that 3,600 damage can be even more damaging to help you push for an OTK. For the Link monsters, of course, you do play the 2 Monk of the Tenyi, the 1 Shaman, and of course the 1 Shashara. So I'll go over the Shashara, as not a lot of people actually know how this works. But while you control a face-up non-effect monster, which you should do by always keeping Monk on the field, monsters your opponent controls cannot target effect monsters for attacks. Also, your opponent cannot target effect monsters on the field with card effects. So it basically just makes them all targeted immune. It means they have to attack Monk. And if you're backing Monk up with either a Blackout, or you're backing Monk up with, wherever it may be, the water, where are you? If you're backing the Monk up with your Shafana, it means that your opponent can't just run over it, because if they run over it, you just summon it back to the field. That's just on the base of it. If you needed another non-effect monster on the board, because maybe you don't have your Shafara or you don't have a Monk or anything like this, this has a really kind of cool quick effect to target an effect monster your opponent controls and special summon a Tenyi Spirit Worm level 4 light question mark attack, which will become the attacks token is of the targeted monster, but it's a non-effect monster. So straight away you put another non-effect monster more. So if you already have a Monk, they have to deal with Monk once or twice if you have Shafana set up, and then they have to deal with the token you're bringing off the back of the Shafara. So it makes it very, very difficult and very awkward for your opponent to try and navigate around that. And you're basically putting up a nice wall, because you're going to be backing up the Sasara with stuff like a Protoss sometimes. You'd also be backing up with a Chenying, and of course maybe sometimes a long one. The benefit of this one is if you can get this out before you go into Protoss, it means your opponent has even more of a trouble to deal with Protoss, because they can't Veiler it and they can't Imperm it, so they have to find a way to non-target to stop it. Either destroying in this scenario will ideally be Darks, but that can be very good against Malice, and it can also be very good against like a Yubel matchup, depending on what you're going to be facing at your environment. So that is it for the entire profile. I hope this has given you a bit of an insight into what the deck currently looks like. Hopefully it also gives you an idea of what cards you're going to need to add post the Maze of Masters if you have been trying to pick up a core. I think you could pick up a Swordsoul core itself for like £10 really easily, because the Mogis being supers, they're probably like £2 to £3 each. Then of course it's not in its hype right now. There's not a lot of hype around Swordsoul at all. So if it's a deck you've always wanted to build, or it's a deck that you had, got rid of, and then want to pick it back up again, now is a really good time to do so. And then all you need to do is get like a Muladhara for like £1 or £2, and then 3 of the Saruya, and then the Saruyas are like £8 on the secret rare, maybe £10 at a push. But you get a playset of that. You can pick up all of the Tenyis for like the Tenyis for like commons, rares, or supers and ultras, and they'll all be like a couple of pound here and there, depending on which rarity you're looking for. And then everything else is relatively easy to pick up. The extra isn't anything too extravagant. Like Bactia came as a rare, Yazi came as a rare, Chijiao is like a £3 ultra rare because it came out in Mama, I believe. Your long one also came as an ultra rare. So did your Chenying. There we go. So all of these have had recent reprints. You should be able to pick them up. And even the Link 4 that not a lot of people know about or like even consider, this came as a common in an OTS recently as well. So very easy to pick up. You might be able to do a bit of bulk diving and pick up everything. But I think you could very easily put this deck together for about $100 or less guaranteed. But then I also feel you could probably put it together for $50 or less, depending if you want to be utilizing Trill Tactic Talents and of course the Magnamu and Druid Swarm. Like if you don't want to use those and you want to go for stuff like Effect Veilers and you want to go for Draw and Lot Birds, which are even more cheaper, you can actually put this deck together well for within the $50 price range as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.